welcome.
Yeah, the name is, from what I learned from our British friends, Fugl. So I just go with that because I like it. It was just a temporary name that I came up with. It means bird in Norwegian. And it kind of stuck, basically. Because I started this in September 2014. I think, and it was meant to go on for half a year, and I'm still not finished, and I'm at least a half year away from being close to finished. So it's been a long road. I'm originally a filmmaker and a graphic designer before that, and I got into game making. I was programming when I was young, but at that time, I'm 43, so like in the early 90s when I started studying computer science, there was only boys, and you know, there were really sweaty, nerdy boys, and I just felt my life would be like this sweaty thing. So I wanted girls in my life too, but now, you know, 20 years later, games is the coolest thing you can do, and much more girls, and you know, so I think that was not the reason I got into it, but I felt that I kind of dismissed it at the wrong reasons at that point, and then I got back to it because that's where my passion was, and as a medium, it's really nice, I think, to work with the interactivity. So I started making this, doing these tutorials online. OpenGL tutorials, and I learned myself graphics programming, and I did this, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's this waving flag kind of tutorial, and I did that one, and I kind of turned it, oh, this reminds me of something, and I kind of turned it 90 degrees, the flag, and I was like, oh, this is a terrain, you know, and I was like, wow, this I could work with. Because it was fascinating, kind of making this, just kind of seeing this world, you know, and seeing the possibilities of kind of building worlds. So I got really into it, and I made a game called Melody, where you kind of dive through these caves and stuff, and it was the start. And after that, I said, okay, I want to do something light, you know, I want to make this vibrant world, and I wanted to do it in voxels because. Let me just show you the first video I put out. I don't think I have sound. Yeah, so this was the first video. It's from December 2014. And this got really good reception and was picked up by a few sites. So I was like, okay, this is what I want to do, you know. And for like almost a year after that, I was kind of making these worlds by doing this code here. And it's not easy to see, but I made these different functions. So I could kind of start with a height field, and I would then kind of add some caves here, and then I would modulate it. But as you can see, there's a lot of parameters, you know, that I had to put in with different numbers. So every time I wanted to make a world, I had to kind of adjust these numbers here, and then kind of regenerate the world from scratch. And it took like 1 minute to iterate on this. So I spent like many months on building the worlds, and after a year I had something that looked like this. Oh, sorry. So this was a very slow way of doing it, and also when I progressed in the project, I got better at programming, so I really wanted to redo it stuff. And since like the world generation was my primary interest, I redid it first one time, then another time, and then a third time, and I think I'm on my fourth time now, you know. And this last time, what I'm going to show you now is a GPU-based approach to it, because I wanted it to be as interactive as possible. So, I'm just going to start up the game. Yeah. All right. So here we can change levels here, and just going to go through them quickly. So this is all the output from the built-in level editor that I'm just going to show you now. So it starts out as a height field, and it's very windy. So here you have all this kind of real-time manipulations. Can somebody turn down the wind, please? It's a little bit distracting. No dial for the wind yet. So this is pretty standard stuff, you know. You can change these parameters, and there's also like different stages you can go down. So it starts here, and then you kind of add some rivers, and then you get to the 3D phase where you kind of noise modulate it with noise. And I will show you later, I will show you all the tools or all the things I used. Since this is a custom engine, we're using something called Der Imgu, which is immediate mode kind of UI, where you don't store any state, you just use it directly to manipulate the variables. So it's very easy to use. It generates vertex buffers you can just render out, basically. So here you can... so this is based on signed distance fields, if you heard about it. It's a way of rendering. This is raycasted. You can skip a lot of steps by... because every point in this 3D texture has like a number that says how close it is to the nearest surface. So if it's a long distance, you can traverse more quickly, raycast more quickly. So there's different phases here to this. I won't explain everything, but you can kind of go in and change the noise here, and it's all interactive. You can change, of course, the coloring, you know, do something different, and also the patterning. And these are all basically 3D textures which I'm manipulating at different resolutions. So here you can see I'm modulating the, let me see here, the patterning of the rock, basically. And I can domain warp it to make it more interesting. And then you have this primitive phase where you can add in primitives, as you can see here. More or less, and I can show you how they look without the noise modulation. So basically, it looks like this, and I can change the primitive type. Now it's a sphere. I can change it to, no, this is wrong, here. Cylinder, I can change this to torus. Yeah, so you get kind of interesting shapes from this, and you can kind of manipulate it further with the noise and modulate it. And also change the colors, of course. Yeah. And then you progress, you add some caves to this. You can switch it to see how the caves are, and change the seed of it, stuff like that. Add in, add in beaches here, and you can change the parameters for the beaches and stuff. And it's all interactive. Add in grass. Yeah, and you can also bring in like presets. So I can bring in the grass from another biome, basically, just as an easy way of using it if you don't want to tweak it, you can use a preset and take it from there, basically. And the last stage is the vegetation stage, where you add in the vegetation, basically. So here you see it's coming in some palms and different types of vegetation, basically, and I can, for instance, the palms there, if I don't like, I'm making a new biome, I can change this to, like we have the palm here, I can change that to a preset from another biome. For instance, let me see here, like this. So now it changes, and you get a real-time preview, and you can kind of change how it's populated, filters. If it's going to be here, it's a filter that says that it will only generate on sand, or you could have like sand and grass and stuff like that. And at the end, you just export it. And when that is done, you can basically just play the level. So that's kind of a quick rundown of. I just want to quickly show you the tools that I use at my resources. Yeah, and now it's finished, or not quite. Yeah, here you go. And I can also show you that, like, if you have a level. You can also press this randomize button, and it will randomize all the seeds in the biome if you want to play a different version or see how it looks. And it will just randomize all the seeds, basically. And this the player can do, and this is everything I've shown you now is in the game. All right. Yeah, I just have to let it finish. So I'm basically done, I think. If there's questions, I would rather answer questions. This is just a quick overview. I will also show you my resources very soon. And here's the new canyon.
After you are done with the game, do you plan to use these tools to make more stuff with it?
Absolutely, absolutely. I spent too much time on it, not to. So like Fugl is just like this thin layer on top of the engine, basically. So it's not really, I want to ditch the voxels because they're very heavy to render. So I mean, you could, as you see, I didn't show you that, but the default view is just a raycasted view. And I can switch on Voxel Rendering, but I mean, this could be rendered as low poly style or whatever, with with marching cubes or whatever. So I can turn this on, and here you will see the individual voxels, how they will be in game. It's not that easy to see, but yeah.
Would you want other people to make games in your engine?
Absolutely, but I mean, it's not like it's not Unity, So, like, if you see all the animations here, it's frame by frame voxel animations. So it's kind of a special thing. There's not many people doing that. Hi. It's about 99% on the GPU, yeah.
I noticed that your levels, you have overhangs, you've got cave systems.
Yeah, yeah.
How are you storing or using sort of an amorphous structure like that actually has those sorts of features all on the GPU?
Yeah.
It's like the caves and overhangs.
It's basically just a bunch of 3D textures at different resolutions. Yeah, and so for the final voxels, I just interpolate it basically from those 3D textures, and it's about, I think, 20 of them in total with all the coloring and patterning. Because when I started making this game, I knew I wanted it flat shaded, because like texture games, they don't work very well when you, or at least it didn't used to work very well when you were very close up to the terrain. And when this game is about flying very close to the terrain and going through all these caves and stuff like that.
Okay. Do you have any plans on having the possibility for the player to export the level they created outside?
Yes, I mean we've been using Magica Voxel a lot to make the animations, and Tracy makes the Magica Voxel. They also have this Voxel Renderer, which is really nice with all these different options. So I have earlier exported to that format and rendered it, and it looks really nice. And you could use it, of course, in other programs as well, and just use this to make levels, to make, like, if you're a voxel artist, you can use this to make your backgrounds and stuff like that. So that's absolutely a feature I want to do.
That would be a good feature in the setup of the game. Cool. Thank you.
This is the shaders, by the way. So this is all compute shaders done in metal, and we're porting them to OpenGL now. So, I mean, the shaders themselves are usually very simple. A lot of it is just iterating on the volume and maybe adding some noise, doing a few small operations, but nothing very complex, really. So it's kind of very small shader code. I use, so for the people who are interested in this kind of technology, I would definitely recommend IQ's site, which you can see here, modeling with distance functions. It's a really great resource, and he has a lot of, it's old, like this is old demo scene techniques that's come more and more into fashion now. And it's, yeah, so you can all do these Boolean operations and domain operations and stuff like that, that create this kind of geometry that you can see running here, basically. So, and I also use something called the Ashima noise library, which you can find here on GitHub. It's basically GPU noise code with all these different noise generators that you would want. So this is really good. I use it for a lot of things. They have a lot of different noises, so I can really recommend this, Ashima. And also, this is the GitHub page for their IMGU, or IMGU. And it's super easy to use. I can just show you a quick example from my editor here. It's like, if I want to manipulate like just a float, you can see the code here, cave chance. It's very simple. I just point to where the variable is, and the minimum value and maximum value, and that's it, and it will take care of the rest for me. So super easy to use. Also, this is a nice library for doing distance fields or modeling with noise functions. So basically you have these operators and primitives and stuff that you can use to build geometry. Any more questions?
You said it's all on the GPU, so I was wondering, how do you deal with the collision system when you fly around?
Oh, that's the good thing about working with voxels, is that it's very easy to know if you're inside a voxel or not. It's just a quick lookup into a 3D array. So that's basically it. I use something called Verlet physics for the ragdolling. Like if you crash, I can show you it really quickly. So basically just checks if a part of the bird is inside. And it will just ragdoll. So it's super simple. That's the big plus with working with voxels, is that it's super easy to know if you're inside something or not. Good?
All right, so the generator is a lot of steps really mentioned, like the 8 fields, and with it.
Yeah.
How do you end up that way? It feels like it's grown and it's pretty complex.
Okay, so my main motivation is making landscapes that are fun to fly through, basically. So that means that there's some things that I found out that works really well, and one of these things are canyons. So basically I had to make this canyon generator that makes, from a height field, just carves down into, to make these canyons. If you see here and here, carves it out. And then I knew that I wanted to if I turn off the, this distorts, so this is undistorted, but it looks a little bit boring, so I distorted it with a little bit noise before distorting it with even more noise, just to make it more interesting. And then I knew I wanted something to contrast with, so I needed these kind of primitives that would give a little bit, I could color differently and give a little bit of variation. But everything kind of grew out from experimenting and just doing this for many years. So I don't really recommend, I mean, this is a really deep hole you can go into, and you should really think carefully before diving into it, and maybe not have so many close relations with people, or value that, you know. Just try to, if you're super content just being alone with yourself and not needing any people, I think you could do, it's a good thing to do, but for me it got a little bit kind of, in the end, a little bit too much maybe, and I figure out I need human contact too. I just can't, even though this is super fascinating, I think it's something you have to think about, kind of balance, because the hole goes deep. Yeah. So did I answer your question? Yeah.
So did I understand right in the end to render the whole thing as a scientist did?
I can, but it's not really fast enough to do it in, especially with the voxel rendering, because then I have to step through every voxel to see with this, like the boxy rendering. But like it's rendered now, I can just, you know, use ray casting, and I don't need to render polygons at all. So that will be an option for more high-end computers.
So how do you do it normally in the usual game?
At this export stage, the last stage, it's the polygons are being generated basically. Yeah. And then in the final game, it's the foreground is rendered as voxels, and then it's like the background is raycasted basically. So you see it's a little bit more blurry in the background because it's a low resolution version of this. Yeah. Any more questions? Is it out time? Okay. Thank you very much for listening to me.